Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Your Mark on the World show. I'm your host, Devin Thorpe. I'm a Forbes contributor covering social entrepreneurship and impact investing, and recently came across a remarkable woman, a social entrepreneur of really epic proportions, Arlene Samen, who is a nurse who is really making a tremendous difference in saving lives around the world. Arlene, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me today, Devin.
Well, it's really entirely our pleasure. I found your story fascinating, where it begins with the Dalai Lama. Please take a minute and tell us about your experience with the Dalai Lama and how that started you on what you're doing today.
Yes, it was, of course, a tremendous turning point in my life and my career. But in 1997. I had the good fortune to travel to Dharamsala, India, where the Tibetans live in exile. And I actually went with a team of plastic surgeons because we were going to operate on several Tibetan children that had a cleft lip and palate. And while we were there waiting the night before, we were asked if we would like to have an audience with His Holiness. And of course, we said yes. And my colleagues asked me, well, what are you going to ask him? And I just said, I'm going to ask him how I can help. And so the next morning we all went to his home, and we shared with him what we were doing and looking at the photos of before and after of the children. And then he heard that my background was in maternal child health. And he said, I want you to go to Tibet and help the women and children. My own mother had 16 children and 8 of them died. And I know that women deliver alone and they need your help.
Wow.
So I didn't know how to say no to His Holiness. So of course I went. I found a way to go into Tibet.
That's great. I mean, yeah, you say, of course, you didn't know a way to say no or how to decline, but of course, most people would have said, boy, that's too hard. I can't do that. It's remarkable that you did it. So you were able to go, you set up a program. Tell us a little bit about your experience in Tibet.
Well, when we first got there, I took a team of doctors from the University of Utah Medical Center, and there was no program to train midwives in Tibet. And the majority of women at that time were delivering alone out in a cowshed. And there were a lot of reasons why, superstitions around why women delivered alone and outside of the home, because they believed that the blood of childbirth is polluting and that bad spirits could come to their home if they delivered in the house. So we went in to understand the cultural and spiritual beliefs and practices around childbirth, and then designed an intervention, multiple interventions that really focused on the pregnant woman, her family, and the community, and then set up birthing centers and training of midwives and the doctors in Lhasa, so that it became a comprehensive model known as the network of safety. And at that time, there were no cell phones at all in Tibet. There were not paved roads. There wasn't electricity or running water. And it was extraordinarily beautiful. I mean, imagine yourself on the foothills of the Himalayas at 12 to 15,000 feet with these vast, expansive fields and mountains and rivers and people living like they had lived in medieval times. I mean, it was amazing.
Wow. Now, what was the outcome of your initial efforts there?
Well, we were really well accepted by the communities, and we created a program that worked in collaboration with the Health Bureau, so that we didn't create a parallel system. We actually integrated into an existing system and then left behind a midwife training program and birthing centers. And over the course of 7 years, we actually took maternal mortality. It was on average 1 out of 100 women would die in childbirth and 1 out of 10 newborn babies. And by the time that we left, it was 0 maternal mortality, and newborn mortality dropped from 10 to 3%. And then to this day, even though we're not there anymore, that that program continues and has become sustainable and incorporated within the healthcare infrastructure.
Oh, it's amazing, amazing work. Now, you left Tibet, but you didn't quit. What have you been doing since you left Tibet?
Well, many people know that in 2008, there was a political uprising in Tibet, and I was actually held at gunpoint during that and had to witness a lot of very difficult scenarios. And in 2009, we were not able to continue the program in Tibet, but my Tibetan staff came back and said they would do it themselves. And they said, you can never give up, and you need to take what you've learned here and you need to take it somewhere else and pay it forward. And honestly, I thought, okay, I'm done. I've done my part, but that wasn't the case. I actually met with His Holiness again, and he said, you can't give up. You need to take what you've learned. And we decided to take it to Nepal because it was just on the other side of the Himalayas, similar culture, similar language, and so we could just transfer our knowledge and our experience of working in the Himalayas, but on the Nepal side.
Oh, that's great. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Nepal now. How is it going, especially after the earthquake?
Well, it's actually been going incredibly well prior to the earthquake. We also took maternal mortality to 0, where we were working, and reduced newborn mortality by 95%. And in April 25th, when the earthquake happened, it actually totally devastated 2 of the districts where we're working, where there's about 700,000 people live, and on average about 16,000 deliveries per year in those 2 districts. And when I went over, the second earthquake hit, which was 7.4, while we were setting up birthing tents. And so we had the really great fortune of having had a relationship with Direct Relief out of Santa Barbara, who does disaster relief, and the Taifi Foundation, who donated these tents. And right away, we were able to get 22 tents and all the medical equipment and supplies on a plane through Direct Relief on the ground within 10 days of the earthquake. And our team actually was the first one to get to 2 of the districts and bring medical supplies and doctors and nurses. We've set up these tents, and right now women are coming into our tents and delivering day and night. And we'll continue to do that until the monsoon stops, and then we can actually put up some more permanent structures. So far going well, even though it's a very tragic situation right now.
How much coverage do you have in Nepal? You talk about this, the 2 districts where you're working. There are dozens or hundreds of districts in
There are 75 districts in total in Nepal. And right now we're in 5. And our goal is to be in 35 by the year 2025, which is quite ambitious, but will allow us to reach about 200,000 pregnant women by 2025. Wow. So we're adding new districts, 4 to 5 new districts per year.
Are you focusing on rural districts, or have you incorporated Kathmandu as part of your program?
No, we're not really. Our office is in Kathmandu, but where we're focusing our efforts is in the most remote areas. And so if you look at a map of Nepal, we're basically assigned to work on all the districts that cross the northern part of Nepal on the Tibet border. That's where the highest maternal and newborn mortality rates are occurring, because it's isolated, there's no roads. If you get into trouble, basically you have to get on a helicopter to get out. But it's an area that we feel quite comfortable in working in the Himalayas and in the most remote areas. And so the government assigned us really the most challenging districts in Nepal.
That's wonderful. I have a special place in my heart for Nepal. I was there in March, just before the earthquake, and
wow.
Doing some volunteer work. And I just love the people, and I'm glad you're there doing what you can to help. I want to just shift gears a little bit and ask you a few personal questions. First off, you have become over the last decade, at least, a role model, someone that people look up to. Who do you look up to? Who's your role model?
Well, I have many, but what comes to my mind, I mean, of course, His Holiness the Dalai Lama and Jimmy Carter and Martin Luther King and Gandhi. But the real heroes for me are the midwives that work for our program, that live and work in these incredibly remote areas. And for them to go out in the middle of the night and walk over 15,000-foot passes to go to a home and do a delivery, and they never know what they're going to find there. And sometimes, like, there's a breech delivery and the baby's not breathing, and they're basically up there completely on their own. And they have so much courage and so much compassion. And when I hear their stories, it terrifies me. And I'm a nurse practitioner with over 30 years experience in maternal fetal medicine. And even under the best of conditions of being in a hospital like the University of Utah and having everything at our fingertips, these cases that they're taking care of would be very complicated and very difficult to take care of. And yet they're up there alone. And the only way for them to get help is a helicopter to come, which is most likely not going to come in the middle of the night because they have to land at 15 to 18,000 feet. And so they're really my heroes, are the midwives.
Oh, that's just amazing. Well, you are incredibly successful. I mean, let's be clear that the measures of your impact are extraordinary. And all the people who are watching, and I, want to have more impact. We want to do more good. And so I'm thinking, what is something that you do every day that allows you to be successful, that we could emulate? What can we copy from you to have more impact in the world?
Well, personally, every day I meditate and I give gratitude, for the opportunity to be of service. And on the ground in Nepal, for me, it's all about respect, for us to go in there and to understand from a cultural and spiritual perspective what the people believe, and then for us to adjust our programs and our interventions to drive systemic change of their behavior in a way that is respectful. And I really feel that's why One Heart is so successful, is that we go to the people, we live with them, and we love them, and we respect them, and that we give them the support that they need to do, the best to help the women in their community. So I would say it's my practice and it's respect.
Yeah, great tips. Now, I wonder if you could just tell us fundamentally, why do you do this? You could be doing anything. Of course, you could be back in the relative comfort of Salt Lake City at the University of Utah, making a good salary, hobnobbing with the folks here. I mean, tell us why on earth you've chosen instead to traipse all around the world helping women you've never met and never heard of.
I guess the short answer to that is that I know that that's where women are dying, is at home alone. And when I heard that, after years of working in a university setting, what was happening around the world globally, that every 2 minutes a woman dies in childbirth. And I knew that I could do something that could turn back that tragic turn of events. I just couldn't sleep at night knowing that with simple interventions that we could save lives. And so once His Holiness asked me to go do that, and I had, the experience of living and working out in communities and getting to know the people, there was just no way I could walk away. And I mean, there are times that I've allowed myself to say, I give up today, because I have faced many challenges, as you know. earthquakes and, SARS epidemic and gunpoint. But in the end, the next day I'll wake up and I'll say, okay, I'm ready to go again. And it's really the people that we empower that are the wind beneath my wings. I mean, they are the ones on the ground dedicating their lives. And so I do it for them. I do it for the women that face death.
Fantastic. It seems to me you probably were successfully replaced, as remarkable as you are, at the University of Utah. But you've gone and done some things that if you hadn't done them simply wouldn't have happened. Women have been saved quite literally by you and your teams over the last decade. And so it's remarkable, the choice you've made.
Well, thank you. I really give gratitude that I have the ability to do it every day. I really am the lucky one. I'm so blessed that I get to have that experience, because the people are so humble, so resilient, and have taught me far more than I could ever give them.
Oh, thank you. Well, listen, before you go, I want you just to tell people how they can get in touch, how they can learn more about One Heart Worldwide, and how they can engage with you.
Well, we have a website. It's www.oneheartworld-wide.org. We have an office here in San Francisco. They can go online and reach us. We also have a One Heart Worldwide Facebook, Twitter. They certainly can call the office. They can call me personally, 415-994-9433. And we welcome all callers and any support that we can get, especially now during this very difficult time in Nepal.
Wonderful. Well, Arlene, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. We wish you every success in the great work that you're doing.
Well, it's my honor.
All righty. Let's do some good.
Thank you.